There is a garbage truck of plastic entering the ocean every minute of every hour of every day.
Greenhouse gas emissions are making our seas warmer and more acidic. Marine pollution harms fish and wildlife, affecting the entire food chain.
All you can see as far as the horizon is the remains of human refuse.
You can barely see the river. It's just covered in plastic. There's all kinds of rubbish here, from shoes, nappies. It's all household rubbish. This is stuff that people have thrown in.
Oil spills, PCBs, rotting corpses, human feces, and 15 feet of something called black mayonnaise.
As can be seen, polluted, dirty waterways is one of the biggest problems in the 21st century. Large efforts have been put together, and some of the greatest minds have worked on the issue. But this problem hasn't only been a 21st century issue. Pollution of waterways has spanned back for over 150 years. Let's go back to 19th century London. This is in the midst of the Victorian era. The Victorian era is known for great literature from Charles Dickens and Oscar Wilde. It is also known for great architecture. The House of Westminster, or more commonly known as Big Ben or the Parliament, was built during this time. This era was a great time for London and could be seen as London's glory days. But there was a massive problem in the Victorian era that is forgotten and has killed tons of people. It was its sewage system. London had a minuscule sewage system that could not handle its giant population for the time. This would cause sewage leaks on the street that would result into leak into the Thames River, where people were just dumping their sewage into the Thames River. This would prompt many cholera outbreaks and accumulating into the Great Stink. How a modern sewage system saved the city of London. A massive cholera outbreak occurred in London in 1858 from citizens pouring their sewage into the Thames. In a generic cholera outbreak, it would have spread through water, but this time it spread through the hot, stifling summer air. This is the Great Stink. It killed so many people that it is unknown how many people died. But in the midst of this epidemic, one of London's greatest heroes steps up and saves the most populous city in the world at the time. He is Joseph Bazalgette, an engineer that created a revolutionary sewage system that is built so magnificently that parts of it are still in use today. This triumphantly changed the course of waste management and helped to eradicate this tragic public crisis.
Before the Great Stink, there were a few other cholera outbreaks. But before we go on, what is cholera? Cholera is an illness you get when you eat or drink food or water that is contaminated with the bacteria Vibrio cholerae. The symptoms are severe diarrhea, vomiting, and dehydration. With the right conditions, it can kill someone in only a few hours, but most people infected don't show symptoms. The world has seen the problem of cholera and is on track to make it cholera-free by 2030. But in the 19th century, there were no known cures for cholera, so it made it much more deadly. The most prevalent outbreak before the Great Stink was the cholera outbreak of 1848. This killed just over 14,000 people. Unlike the Great Stink, this outbreak spread through people drinking this unsanitary water. This unsanitary water was from the Thames, the sewage wasteland. Just imagine drinking someone else's feces and how disgusting that would be. After the cholera outbreak of 1848, the Public Health Act of 1848 was signed. This was after a study by Edward Chadwick showing that poor people had poor health and unsanitary drinking water. The Thames River was filled with sewage because its sewage system emptied directly into the Thames and was thought to go into the sea. This Public Health Act didn't do much, as another cholera outbreak occurred in 1854 from the same reason. After studies from a British physician named John Snow identified the Broad Street Pump.
Broad Street Pump pumped contaminated water from the Thames that poor people drank and eventually died from. This went against the popular miasma theory, which was the leading theory for causing of disease spreading. The miasma theory stated that bad air causes disease spreading. But from Snow's investigation, it debunked the miasma theory and showed that sewage and water causes cholera outbreaks. This was thought to be the big precursor to the Great Stink, as it debunked the miasma theory and showed that sewage water caused these cholera outbreaks. In June of 1858, temperatures in London went through the roof with temperatures between 34 to 36 degrees Celsius, and in the sun it got up to 48 degrees Celsius. The heat turned London into a smelly sewer. This lasted for several weeks and caused the Great Stink. The smell was so bad that even standing next to the Thames would have been impossible, said Beverly Cook, a Museum of London curator. The Great Stink was so bad that it affected the politicians in Parliament. Parliament stopped what they were doing and made this a first priority to stop the Great Stink and prevent further major cholera outbreaks. With the cholera outbreak as the nation's first priority, architect Joseph Bazalgette is called into action by the British Parliament. The objective to save the City of London. When Bazalgette worked as a railway engineer, he learned a great deal about land drainage and reclamation. Bazalgette is responsible for the first modern sewage system, capable for holding over 1 million people. Bazalgette wanted this sewage system to be the best that it can to prevent further damage. One thing he did to affect the sewage system was to use Portland cement instead of standard cement. Portland cement was an unproven material. Bazalgette took the risk by using it. It turned out well because Portland cement is a stronger substance than standard cement and it works superb for building pipes. If you didn't use Portland cement, parts of the sewage system would probably not be in use today. Another thing Bazalgette did was embank on the river. The embankments called Victoria, Albert, and Chelsea narrowed the river 50 yards, which caused a scouring effect to cleanse the river. If this wasn't achieved by Bazalgette, could have been other cholera epidemics in the near future. By 1868, he had connected almost all of London through this revolutionary system. The system was an egg-shaped waterway that made it so the sewage went into treatment instead of the river. Joseph Bazalgette is an unnamed hero who saved the City of London from catastrophe.
Joseph Bazalgette paved the way for modern sewage systems today. In 1870, the first water treatment plant was set up in England using Bazalgette sewer. In 1885, the first filtration system was used to filter waste. In 1912, they proved that you could treat more sewage for less time, not using contact beds. Part of Bazalgette's system is still used today in certain parts of London. Joseph Bazalgette is very overshadowed by Isambard Kingdom Brunel, the front face of England's Industrial Revolution, creating major infrastructure. Joseph Bazalgette's use of Portland cement was an ingenious idea because it's much less likely to deteriorate. Joseph Bazalgette's sewage system was also a revolutionary achievement for urban planning. After Bazalgette built his sewage system, it saved the public, yet was also so efficiently built that it's been said that it laid the foundation for modern London. As for life in 2019, looking back at these specific events shows that having a sufficient sewage system is extremely important from avoiding catastrophe. When this happened in 1858, it was some of the first events of extreme weather on a big city. After this event, it showed some of the major effects of extreme weather on a major city. The fact that there is an unknown amount of fatalities from this event shows only a fraction of what extreme weather patterns and global warming could cause on Earth. Although this happened a mere 150 years ago, this doesn't mean it could happen again today. In different circumstances. There are many polluted bodies of water, especially in South and Southeast Asia, such as the Ganges River in India, the Mekong River in Thailand, and the Yangtze River in China. This shows how people don't learn from past mistakes. Although the Great Stink won't happen again, it's still important to teach people about the Great Stink so they know the importance of keeping Earth's major waterways clean.